I think I'm a good CEO, but I know I'm a great COO.
Everybody wants to be the CEO, right? I mean, that's a sexy job and exciting, and you're the big dog. You have to really be honest with yourself and say, well, where's my best fit in the company? Where do I add the most value? I landed the plane, but not to the degree that I hoped. I might see 2 years out. They're seeing, 10 years out. That's when you can say, okay, I'm going to be a great COO.
Hello and welcome to Between Two COOs. Today, I'm joined by Rick Marini. Rick has been through a few different waves of tech. He started Tickle back in the dot-com era, nearly ran out of cash, then turned it into one of the biggest sites on the internet. He later founded BranchOut, one of the early professional networks, and then more recently, he helped acquire and scale Grindr, where he came in, reset the company, and helped take it public. He's also been an active investor along the way. But the reason I wanted to have him on is something he said when we first spoke. He said, I think I'm a good CEO, but I know I'm a great COO. And that's not something you hear very often. So what I want to get into today is that idea, how you figure out where you actually create the most value, what a great COO really does, and how those CEO-COO partnerships actually work when they work. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. Great to be here.
So let's talk about that. You said something when we first talked. You said, you're a good COO, but a great COO. And most people don't say that out loud. Why?
When you say it that way, it didn't sound as humble as I meant it. All I meant to say
it was humble.
Well, I've been blessed to have different roles in, my career over the past 26 years of running companies, right? I started my career as a co-founder in CFO, and I was a CMO. At BranchOut, I was a founder and CEO. And at Grindr, I was COO, right? So I've had the experience and gained some perspective, and hopefully with age, some maturity, because I think everybody wants to be the CEO, right? I mean, that's a sexy job and exciting, and you're the big dog. But I think you have to really be honest with yourself and say, well, where am I best, where's my best fit in the company? Where do I add the most value? And also, when you get to work with the people that I've been able to work alongside, two of my best friends, James Currier, when we co-founded Tickle, and Jeff Bonfort when we ran Grindr, sometimes when you see what a great CEO looks like, you realize, they're seeing things that I didn't. I might see 2 years out. They're seeing, 10 years out in terms of their vision. And then I think it's humbling a bit, but you can say, okay, well, where can I be complementary to that incredible CEO? And for me, the way that I'm kind of built, my brain and my skill set really is on the execution side. So it's great to partner with people that you love and you trust, and again, those two of my best friends who have the vision and the ability to be great CEOs and realize I can be complementary in my skill set in terms of execution as I hope a great COO.
Well, I want to reassure you, when we talked before, it came off, you're a very humble guy. I can attest to this. Listeners, Rick is a humble guy, but it's a very insightful moment. And I'm wondering, when did that click for you? What was there a specific moment where you realized that, or was it just more gradual?
Well, when James and I co-founded Tickle back in 1999, so this is early days, Web 1.0, I had never been an entrepreneur before. I had really come from kind of investment banking before going to business school. So I didn't really know, that world and becoming an entrepreneur, right? So I learned a lot in that process. And then with BranchOut, I felt like, okay, I am ready. I'm ready to be CEO. And listen, BranchOut had 800 million profiles. We raised $49 million. So I did a lot of the things that CEOs do. You can raise a lot of money, you can get a lot of users, you can attract and retain a great team. And I did all of that. And I felt pretty good. We didn't have the exit. We had a good exit, but not a great exit. And I think that was one, hey, I landed the plane, but not to the, the degree that I hoped on that one. And then, in meeting and working with Jeff, I got to see, his vision and his thinking. And when we were in a position to buy Grindr, it was pretty clear that, I've done the CEO thing, but I think you're going to be better at this. And I know when I was kind of number two to James at Tickle that I did a great job there and we were so complimentary. So at that point, it was like, you know what? I think you're the right guy for this, and I know I can be the right guy for this part. And then, Jeff and I were just, completely complementary in terms of our skill sets. And I think that's important also as you're starting a company. A lot of people, will be coming out of business school or wherever, and it's two engineers or two sales guys or two business people. It's like, no, you want complementary skills. So 1 + 1 = 3.
This is exactly the kind of conversation I'm building the Between Two COOs newsletter around. The podcast is me interviewing operators and founders, executives about how they actually make decisions. But the newsletter is where I'll pull out the practical takeaways, the patterns that keep showing up, and some of my own notes from the COO seat, especially with an episode like this, where we talk about ego, execution, CEO-COO partnerships, and where people actually create value. So go to between2coos.com or b2coo.com and subscribe. It's a tough compliment to find, the yin yang, and we're certainly going to talk about that. I'm curious, staying on this topic though, once you had that realization, what actually got better once you leaned in it?
I think, I'm someone who wants all the information, especially the negative, right? So because in my role as a COO, a lot of it is putting out fires and addressing issues and sometimes buffering the CEO who doesn't really need to know all of that, right? So I'm someone who wants, all the information, and all the information might be, again, that realization of, okay, I'm best in this lane. So I think, when you realize that and you realize where am I going to be most valuable and where am I going to be able to progress in my career the fastest and really the farthest, that's when you can say, okay, I'm going to be a great COO. And then it's a matter of, having all the pieces. And there's a lot of pieces, and we can get into that about what I think, being a great COO. But, also I knew that I had started my career in finance. I had run marketing, I had run HR, I had run a lot of other functions as well. And I knew that I had that experience. So when we were acquiring Grindr, I ended up having 7 departments under me. So I had more departments than any other person in the org. But I had experience in all of those, right? And I also knew, by the way, I'm not a software engineer. There's no way that I should be, clearly ahead of, I'm not the CTO, and, you kind of know where your strengths are and where they're not, which is important too. But I think, having the perspective of like, what have I done? What have I covered? And now what do I feel good about being able to, to do, let's say, a Grindr with seven different groups. I think a COO has, is multi-talented, execution focused, works really well with the CEO, definitely has some vision, but really it's more about having a lot of responsibility to execute on the vision.
Inherent in what you've just said, though, and getting back to ego, I mean, this, to have that realization is, low ego moment. It's understanding what you're good at. You've had experience in so many different realms of running a business. I think it's very common with the COO, and it's one of the things that makes you great. It's also understanding, at least in my case, I'm pretty bad at those other things if I just do them. And I know enough where I can hopefully provide some good leadership. Well, let's talk about the Grindr acquisition. We're getting into this a little bit before I wanted to. You've had so many hits in your career, like unbelievable hits, a lot of turnarounds, and we'll talk about Tickle, but the Grindr one is particularly interesting because that was a massive win. Take me through it. When you approached sort of this situation, how do you then go in? You've spent $600 million acquiring a company, and how do you go in? What do you do next?
Okay, Grindr was an incredible experience for us. It was about a 3-year journey, and so many incredible learnings to share on that. So, if we step back, Grindr had been, by the time we got there, Grindr had been founded about 13 years prior by a guy named Joel Simkai. He sold it to a Chinese company, and this background is important to answer the question. And the Chinese company, they really ran it like a black box. Like there was only 5 people that had equity. Nobody knew the numbers. Nobody knew what was going on. It was so like, all the information was so closely held. And the I think the Glassdoor rating was something like 18%, and the app rating was also around like 1.8 or 1.9, which by the way, 1 is basically a 0. So we're like, wait, how does this iconic brand with with about 100 million of revenue and 45 million of EBITDA, so super healthy business. How can they be doing this bad on the app rating and the management team? And as we dug in, we realized the Chinese ownership, they didn't care about the community, they didn't care about the tech, they didn't care about the product. They just bought it and they doubled prices and they made a bunch of money in the couple years that they owned it. CFIUS, the Committee for Foreign Investment in the U.S., forced a sale because they were worried that the Chinese were getting all of that data, and that could be used for in negative ways. So when we finally got the deal, and it was a long process through CFIUS, when we finally got the deal, and we said, okay, Jeff's going to be CEO, I'm COO, and our other partner Gary Shu is CFO. We went in there, 3 straight guys who are now running the biggest gay dating site on the planet, hands down. No one is even close. So I remember that meeting still on day 1. We had to come into a meeting with the super negative culture, and many of the employees are part of the community, the gay community. And we come in and they don't know us. And we came in, to go back to the beginning, very humble. We came in and we said, we understand, or we think we understand what the culture is today. And we care about culture, and that is not going to be the culture going forward. We are going to be transparent. Everyone is going to get equity. And we know that we're 3 straight guys. We know consumer subscriptions, but we don't know the gay dating community. We don't know the different norms. We don't know the nomenclature. We are going to rely on you at every level of this organization to help us. And we need to earn your trust. And it was such a 180 from the situation they were in with the Chinese, which was basically a battered situation. Like they were just, they're just getting beat on. And I remember one of the employees telling me, the CFO yelling at them about, you're just lucky to have jobs. And it was exactly the opposite of the way that we operate, right? We don't operate by fear. We want to be inclusive. We want people, working towards a shared mission and goal. We have high yet attainable goals. I mean, but we're going to all work hard together, but we are going to be all rowing in the same direction. So that day 1 meeting to set the tone of, we understand that we're not from this community, but we're going to rely on you. We're going to earn your trust. You're all going to get equity. That was really a time where the employees said, wow, this is going to be totally different. And let me fast forward, because 2.5 years later, we took the company public, spoiler alert, for $2 billion on the New York Stock Exchange. My head of marketing, who reported to me, came up to me on the NYSE floor and he said, remember on day 1, 2.5 years ago, you said everyone's going to have equity and we're going to be transparent and you're going to earn our trust. He said, on day 1, I didn't believe it. I didn't know you, but it was too good to be true. And he said, every single thing you said on day 1, as of today, you achieved it. We're all here as shareholders of this company going public. And that is something that I think I'll remember forever. I mean, we went in with the right message. We executed on what we said. We did what we said, and then we were able to all enjoy that exit in the end together.
Inherent in the success in the story you just shared is a high degree of humbleness. When you think about it, you're coming in, yes, the subscription business, so you bring the business and operational aspect of it, but you're going into a sector, or specifically a product that you wouldn't necessarily use yourself. And so to have the success that you did, you have to rely on the team. And I think that is a testament to leadership as well. It's a phenomenal story. I mean, it's also the short timeline from acquisition to IPO at what it jumped from like $15 opening price to like $70 at end of day trading. Like, this is insane. That's crazy. Yeah. You obviously priced too low.
Well, it came down from 70. It did touch 70. And I was telling everyone, Don't do the calculation. Don't
Yeah.
go buy a car or a boat or a house or whatever you're thinking. It's going to come back down, and it did.
Yep.
But no, it was an incredible outcome for everyone, for the employees, the investors, the management team, and the community. I mean, the New York
Mm,
Stock Exchange, I'll give them credit. They had rainbows everywhere on the New York Stock
mm.
Exchange that day. I mean, they really embraced Grindr in the community that day. It was a wonderful day, and really proud of the work that we did.
And now, CFIUS, you mentioned, for listeners that don't know that, I believe it's the Committee on Foreign Influence in the U.S.
Foreign
Is that
investment
correct?
in the U.S. Yeah,
Foreign investment. That's the word.
it's a governmental organization that is kind of a watchdog to
Yeah.
ensure that U.S. IP or data doesn't get out of the country, isn't in the hands of foreign nationals that could use it, for negative purposes. Grindr, as an example, there's a lot of data in there that might be used for blackmail. Or because it's
Hmm.
GPS enabled, you could follow troop movements
Yeah.
because you might know there's a Grindr user in that troop, and they've got Grindr on, and you could follow them. So the U.S. government forced that sale, and I'll tell you, because it's so funny, because it's a gay dating site. A lot of the typical buyers, the blue chip buyers, were not in the process. There was always someone super conservative on the investment committee that was like, we can't touch that one. So we were very lucky that we were able to get in there, because normally we don't get to play at that size.
And there's something in the Grindr story that feels very relevant right now. You were in a forced divestiture situation. You came in and you actually owned and operated the company. Compare that to something like TikTok, where you might get the distribution, but not the algorithm. As an operator, how different are those two situations?
Well, we always love when we have control. We also like to write our own code. We don't like to use, outsourced. It's not always for security. It could also just be if something breaks, you want to be able to fix it. And with TikTok not having ownership or maybe even access to be able to make any tweaks to that core algorithm, I would expect would be, frustrating for that ownership and that management team. Now, TikTok's algorithm is pretty darn good, so they have built something that seems to work. But with Grindr, we definitely enjoyed a situation where we controlled the entire stack, and we could make all the decisions relevant to the company.
I mentioned Tickle before. Let's chat about it. You mentioned being down to about 3 months of cash at Tickle, but the interesting thing, you raised your round day before .com bust, and in that stretch of those 3 months, what did you finally understand that you hadn't before? Because you turned it around.
Well, let me give some context for your listeners on how we got there, so they'll understand, like, wow, that feeling must have been tough given the trajectory. So when we started Tickle, James and I were classmates at Harvard Business School. We took the Myers-Briggs test first year, and back then in 1999, I don't know if it's changed, or 98 when we took it, it was a pencil and paper. You send it, and then 3 months later, you get your results, and you kind of forgot you took it. But at Harvard Business School, with lots of competitive people, all of a sudden everyone starts opening up. Oh, I'm an INTJ, you're an ENTF, and we start to realize, ooh, there's something here. This is like really connecting people. And then James, the visionary, said, James Courier said, hey, with this internet thing, this is 1998, it's still early days, we could make this fun and immediate results and viral, and like all the things that the internet could allow, that you could, take a test like the Myers-Briggs. So that was the original spark. So we raised a little bit of seed money from some HBS professors and some others in Boston, just to be able to get a team of like 6 people. And we start building these tests, including some PhDs. We kind of redo our version of the Myers-Briggs. We do anxiety test and depression test and all these like serious tests. Turns out Those are not viral. Nobody wants to hear how depressed you are, and it's probably not something you want to share with the world, maybe with your spouse or your best friend or siblings or whatever. So we had the good idea, but we were down the wrong track. So these are the tough days of Tickle. That first 6 months was tough, and then we were like, okay, we've got to reset this. Let's make it fun. Let's make it viral. So we asked our PhDs on staff, can you create a test that is, what breed of dog are you? And they're like, really? I'm a PhD from Duke. You want me to? And I was like, yes. So they said, okay, based on these, personality characteristics, you would be a German Shepherd or a Collie or whatever it is. And that test took off. And that was in January of 2000. We went from no traffic at all to like explosive traffic. Now all of a sudden, VCs are finally picking up our call. But we talked to 30 VCs and got no's from everyone because they were just like, I don't really understand these tests. I don't know why they would ever get big. Finally, Andrew Anker and David Hornick from August Capital said, we get it. We get this. We understand, because they were media guys. We understand how this can get big. And they invested in us. So we raised a total of about $9 million. And we're like, okay, we're going to Silicon Valley. We're in this like crappy office in Cambridge, Mass. When the snow melted, it actually flooded literally in the servers we had up on bricks. Like it was tough. Anyway, so we come out to Silicon Valley. We have $9 million, two guys from small town, New Hampshire. Like this is like, we made it. And we get a nice office in a crappy area. But anyway, we hired, like 30 people, and we're like, we did it. We're going. Here we go. And then the dot-com crash, it's clear this is not a blip, this is a crash. And then we, all the advertising dollars just kind of went away. Nobody was advertising on the internet, and we were an advertising-based business. So all we see is a cash balance depleting every month with very little revenue trickling in. So we got to a point of having 3 months of cash. Our lawyers said to us, hey, I think you got to think about winding this company down, paying some severance and any, outstanding accounts payable. And that was the moment. It is fight or flight. Are you going to be pragmatic and say, yeah, you're probably right. We didn't make it, go back to New Hampshire. James and I looked at each other and said, we're fighters. We are gonna fight until that last moment. And in that 3 months, we found a new test, the IQ test. And what's different about the IQ test is any of those other tests that I mentioned, you could ask a friend, hey, am I depressed? Or hey, who's my celebrity match, or whatever, the fun ones. But the IQ test needs to be validated by, a third party. Again, we had PhDs on staff, so they created a PhD validated IQ test. And that was the one test that we actually charged money for. And it just took off. Then I could take all that revenue coming in, recycle it back into marketing in a product that's working. And because of that, we went from 3 months of cash, the beginning of 2000, to the end of 2000 being the fastest growing site on the internet and winning the Webby Award. And it was really that one test when your back is against the wall, fight or flight. And we chose to fight, and we got lucky that we got it right.
I mean, it's crazy because literally the world is crumbling that you're in, right? Silicon Valley.com. I mean, I think to New York 2008, right? And here you are coming out of this quite strong. How do you know when to keep fighting versus when to shut it down?
Yeah, and listen, I think you have to be realistic on that. So there are plenty of companies. Listen, I've been an angel investor in 60 companies. I've been, fortunate to have 15 unicorns of that 60, but I've had zeros along the way, of course. And there are times when the entrepreneur, maybe the investors see this just it's not going to happen. It's not working, and sometimes it's just time to move on. And, and for James and I, we knew we had something. We really believed that. And we knew that we felt like we were just kind of one away, like we're so close, like we're kind of 1 degree off here. And so for us, again, being realistic, it wasn't just, okay, are we fighters or are we gonna bail? It was like, we know that this is going to work. We know people are taking our test. We're just not generating a lot of ad revenue. Can we find a subscription product with one test that we can prove this out? And so we had the right thesis, and fortunately, we found the right test.
It's phenomenal. Well, you've been through multiple cycles now, different companies, different markets, different roles. What actually repeats?
I think, what I've seen repeats is both as an investor and an operator, which is it starts with the people. It always starts with the people, right? Having a great team can pivot. And there's a million stories in Silicon Valley about teams that have either done kind of micro pivots or complete pivots. So it always starts with a great team. What I look for in a team is I want smart people with good judgment that are willing to work super hard, that have high integrity and expertise in their areas, because I like to hire experts and just say, hey, I'm not going to micromanage you. We're going to be aligned on goals, and provide the right vision and the right tools to get there, and then you got to run fast and let's do this together. So it starts with a team. The next is, the TAM is a total addressable market big enough for this idea, because a lot of companies are really interesting, but they become lifestyle companies, right? So as an investor, you're trying to think about, is a TAM big enough that there's a real business here? And then what's your differentiator? Why are you going to win? In Silicon Valley, we see ideas are easy, execution's hard, but I'll talk to a company, or I'd have to do this for myself if I'm starting, and say, they're like, we've got this unique idea, we're going to do this. And I'm like, that's great, but what if there's 5 other companies in Silicon Valley already with that same idea, working on on this idea in a garage somewhere that you don't know about? And they're like, wait, are there? I'm like, you shouldn't be afraid if there are. You should know, yeah, I don't care if there are, because I know how to win. And here's my special sauce. Here's my moat. Here's why I'm going to be the one. Because often, like when you're an angel investor, and again, if you're an operator, you got to think the same way. If you're disrupting a market, 80% of the value may accrue to number one, 15% to number two, and then the long tail shares the rest. So if you're not going to be number one, unless it's a massive TAM like Uber and Lyft, Uber was the big one. Lyft, the TAM was big enough that there was still a business there for number two. But like, you've got to really believe and prove that you are the number one. And if there are 5 other companies, I don't care. I'm number one, and here's why I am going to win. And investors want that, but they also, you can't just say it. You got to be able to prove it.
You talked about moats. It's hard to look at software these days and go, what is an actual moat? Because with Cloud Code, I can stand up a new business tomorrow. Granted, I still think it's very hard to run a business, but in terms of moats now, how do you think about this?
I mean, there's different ways to create a moat. But I agree. I mean, AI is clearly changing things, and the ability to stand up a website in a weekend is very different than it was even 5 years ago. So I think that AI is enabling people to go much faster, for sure, but it doesn't mean that sloppy code is going to end up being a big company someday. So I think you still have to have the vision of where is that greenfield? What can I do with AI tools, or just what am I going after? So I think you're always going to have the vision. In terms of moats, I mean, if you're starting early, because established companies can have a moat around maybe their brand, like everybody knows Budweiser or Coke or Ford or whatever. You have to continue to earn that moat, but there's reputational moats. But I think coming in as a new entrant to a space, I think one of the things that you want to do is try to build up a network effect, right? The larger the network, the more powerful it becomes. If you have the ability to do that and attract a lot of people to your service, and build a service that people love so much that they're willing to pull out a credit card and say, I love this, I can't live without it, I need to pay you something for it. I think if you can do those 2 things, you probably have a sustainable business. Those are the 2 kind of markers to me. Are you attracting people, and not just, oh, it's a CAC LTV game and a leaky bucket and we get a bunch of people but we leak 90% of it out? Mm-hmm. Like, that arbitrage game is tough. Businesses can be built that way, but I'm more interested in companies. Grindr is a great example. I mean, I had marketing under me. We couldn't make marketing work. It was 85% unaided brand awareness. It is their community for the gay community in particular. they want to be there. This is where they want to be and to interact. Whether you're there for dating or just, friendship or finding someone to hang out with, you're in a new city and you want to understand where do I go? Where do I hang out? Like, so many great network effects there. And, by the time we left, we were generating 200 million in revenue. So people clearly will pay for it because you're adding value. So those are the two things. If you can attract people because they love it and not because you paid them there to be there, and they'll pull out a credit card because they love it, then you've got a real business.
And now, because it's so easy to stand up a website and a company, execution and the operators, the people that you're backing, becomes all the more important because ideas will shift overnight. And so what do you look for in those people that you look at and back, aside from saying like, hey, we're going to be number one? I mean, you can say that and have wishful thinking versus be realistic.
Well, it's interesting because I'll put my investor hat on. I can meet an entrepreneur that's been there, done that, 3 times, and that's definitely interesting to be like, okay, you have a lot of industry knowledge here. You have a big network of people that you could bring in as either employees, advisors, board members, and that's super interesting. Also, it can be interesting, like a Mark Zuckerberg who has never done it before. He's in college and he has a different perspective than many of us in Silicon Valley may have, right? Because like we've done it, but we kind of know the way that we did it, and that may not always be the right way to do it, today. So it can go either way in terms of the grizzled vet versus the rookie who doesn't know any better and may make some mistakes along the way, but may see things that we didn't. Because go with Zuck, he's in college. I wasn't in college when he started Facebook, right? I mean, like, I don't know what college kids are doing at that point. So it can go either way on that. But at the end of the day, I think you want to I'll go back to smart people with good judgment that have some kind of insight into a big TAM that you believe they can execute against. And that execution is everything from vision to attracting and retaining the right team, being able to raise money. There's a lot of things that a CEO or a senior team has to be able to do, whether you're investing in them or whether you're the team that's actually operating the business.
Well, let's talk about where you're putting your energy right now. You've shifted gears quite significantly into crypto. What excites you about it? Maybe first give me the rundown of what you're working on. And I want to hear all about the things that have attracted you to that.
Well, I've been in crypto actually for 12 years. So I started investing in crypto in 2014. A friend of mine, Naval Ravikant, got me into crypto early days, told me about Bitcoin, and it took me, a little bit to get it. He had got there quicker than me, but that was my first kind of entrance in terms of the timeline. Then I started the first fund of funds in crypto in 2017 called Protocol Ventures, and now I'm the co-founder of a crypto perps exchange called Rails. So I've been fascinated by crypto for over a decade. I think the store and transfer of digital value is an incredible thing for lots of reasons, and it's still fairly early days. I think TradFi is starting to bridge into crypto finally, but it has taken some time. But anytime you're disrupting massive markets, it can take time. So I think crypto is very exciting, and crypto perps has taken off to be a really important and hot area within crypto.
Yeah, real quick rundown of crypto perps.
Oh, what is it? Okay. So perps are perpetuals. I should have said crypto perpetuals. Perpetuals are basically, it's a derivative. So it's almost like option trading. You're not buying the underlying asset that would be considered spot trading. Crypto perps is really, you are betting directionally. Is this going to go up or down? Kind of like option trading. Like a lot of people are familiar with option trading with public equities. So perps are that. Do I think Bitcoin or whatever asset is going to go up or down? And then you're making a bet, and you're often using leverage in crypto to be able to really double down, triple down, on your bet.
Yeah, I'm not an options trader.
Listen, I
COO,
mean, it's
mitigate risk.
definitely, it's not for everyone, clearly. It's a portion of your portfolio. I would tell anyone, including myself, crypto should not be all of it. Crypto perps should not be all of it. But I will say in crypto trading, crypto perps has
Yeah.
become over the last year or two the hottest part of the crypto trading ecosystem.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to follow. Well, Rick, I got to ask. It's my favorite question. We've all been in the seats now where we've had crazy stories where we see something new and we're like, I really never thought I'd see that. Do you have one you can share?
Well, because I live in Silicon Valley, I get to see things before a lot of others, right? So, as an example, a couple years ago with Waymos, autonomous driving, the first time you get into a Waymo and there is no driver in the front, and I know they're expanding, but we've had them here for a few years and we use them all the time. When you get in the back seat and there is no driver there is no safety driver, there is no one in there, and you've already said, in the app, I'm going to this address, and you get in and it flawlessly gets you there. It is amazing now. And it's just magic. And now, my wife and I take them all the time. And actually, my wife prefers them over Uber and Lyft because, you don't have to deal with a driver and any kind of safety issues, or maybe they're, whatever issues, playing the radio too loud. It is such a nice experience. And, we all knew someday this is going to happen. But to have that as a normal part of our life and using Waymos all the time, and you see them in San Francisco all the time because the reason is they're always driving, unlike us. We go to our destination and we're there and we're done. They're always on the road. So in San Francisco, you just see them constantly. It's like every other car is a Waymo. So it's just become such a normal thing. That to me has been such a cool thing over the last couple of years to be just normal in our lives, to have a car without a driver take us places. So that's number one. Number two is what's on everyone's mind right now, the impact of AI, not just being able to, to stand up a website in a weekend, but, all the ramifications of where this takes us. And these are things that we talk about in Silicon Valley, like constantly. Like most dinner conversations right now will end up including that topic. And we don't know yet, but, the impact of AI will probably be similar to even greater than the internet in the late 90s, mobile after that. And then the move to mobile, and everyone, their phone is such an important part of their life and access to data and information around the world. And I think AI is going to have a different but similarly impactful impact on our life. And we just don't know where that's all going to go. We didn't know where the internet was going to go. And overall, it turned out to be an amazing, amazing thing. And I think AI will be, as long as we have the right guardrails and we do the right things to manage this.
Yeah, it's incredible. I have torn down my entire personal tech stack of 20 years, and I have rebuilt it all on Markdown files. And now AI is running my life in ways I never thought possible. It's insane. Well, yes. Rick, this was great. I appreciate you coming on. Where can people go to keep up with you these days?
You can find me at Twitter at Marini. That's probably, LinkedIn, easy to find. So I'm out there. And Michael, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for the insightful questions and taking an interest in what I've done. I hope there were some tidbits in there for your audience to learn from, but I really appreciate talking to you today.
Yeah, bit of a masterclass. This was absolutely phenomenal. Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you to you all for listening to Between Two COOs. Tune in next time, and until then, so long.